Okay, so get this, listeners. You sent in some fascinating stuff about this program called YogaNurse. And I have to admit, I'm pretty intrigued. A 101-year-old nurse in the program. Ties to a major nursing theory. Weaving yoga into patient care.
Yeah, it really makes you rethink what we typically associate with yoga, doesn't it? It's not just about the poses or stretching. This is about giving nurses the tools to actually use yoga in a therapeutic way to improve how their patients are doing.
So it's like almost like taking that calming power of yoga, right, and turning it into an actual clinical tool.
Exactly. And nurses all over seem to be really interested. They're getting nurses who are direct care, education, even nurses who are, looking for a new path in their careers. It seems to really be designed for like any stage of a nursing career, really.
And I mean, they're tackling these age-old yoga myths head on. A 101-year-old nurse. That totally blows that you have to be young and flexible myth out of the water.
Oh, absolutely. They address that myth directly, along with the idea that yoga is only for the super fit, or that it's somehow like alternative to conventional medicine.
Mm.
They're really positioning yoga as a practice that complements regular medicine and is backed by evidence. It's a really interesting approach.
So what exactly are these yoga nurses learning? I'm seeing module titles like easing and healing trauma and PTSD, even therapeutic yoga for mental health and addiction. Like, is this stuff you can actually use in a hospital?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Take that trauma module, for instance. They really dive deep into how trauma affects the brain, how it shows up, physically and emotionally. And they teach nurses specific techniques for using yoga to actually help patients process and heal from trauma.
Wow, that's some pretty heady stuff. But it does make you think, how many patients are dealing with some level of trauma that we might not even be aware of? And could something like yoga actually help them in their healing process?
Exactly. And, think about the implications for nurses and nurse burnout, too. If nurses have the tools to deal with their own stress and emotional well-being through practices like yoga, they're going to be better equipped to care for their patients and avoid burnout themselves.
That's a really important point. They keep mentioning soul healing for nurses. And, we love to care for others, but nurses need care too.
Yeah.
So is this program saying that yoga can actually be a solution for burnout?
Well, it's presented as one way to address the stress and emotional strain that often leads to burnout, but it's important to remember that burnout is complicated. There are lots of factors. Yoga could be one piece of the puzzle, but it's not a magic bullet.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the enthusiasm and think of yoga as a cure-all. But realistically, it's probably more like a really powerful tool that can be a part of a bigger strategy for dealing with burnout and promoting well-being, right?
Right. And to their credit, they do stress that yoga is a complementary practice, not something that replaces conventional medicine or therapy.
So they're not saying throw away your meds and just do yoga.
Definitely not. They seem to be promoting an integrated approach where yoga works alongside conventional treatments to support overall healing.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's get practical here. What does it actually look like to integrate yoga into, like, everyday nursing practice? Are we talking about nurses leading yoga classes in the hospital hallways?
Well, it seems to be a little more nuanced than that. They talk about incorporating yoga techniques into patient care, things like breath work, guided meditation, or even gentle stretches that can be done right at the bedside.
Oh, okay. So it's not necessarily about turning the hospital into a yoga studio, but more about using parts of yoga to create a more calming and healing environment for patients.
Exactly. And it's about empowering nurses to really assess their patients' needs and adapt yoga practices to fit those needs. They really emphasize safety and individualization, which is super important, especially when you're dealing with patients who may have physical limitations or health conditions.
That makes a lot of sense. So they're training nurses to, like, almost be yoga therapists in a way.
You could say that. They provide a really thorough look at yoga anatomy, physiology, and how to apply different poses and techniques in therapy. They also stress ethical considerations, safety guidelines, and staying within what nurses are allowed to do.
So it's not just like go teach yoga. They're giving nurses a strong base to use these tools responsibly and well in a healthcare setting.
Exactly. And they even cover legal stuff like liability and scope of practice, which is really important for nurses bringing new practices into their work.
That's smart. It shows they're not just focused on the feel-good parts of yoga. They're dealing with the real-world professional considerations, too.
Right. Which brings us back to that connection with Watson's human caring science nursing theory, which I find really interesting.
Okay, Break that down for me a bit. How does a program about yoga tie into a big nursing theory like that?
Well, Watson's theory puts a lot of emphasis on the importance of caring relationships, understanding that the mind, body, and spirit are all connected, and fostering healing spaces. YogaNurse really seems to embody those principles in a very real way.
So they're taking those abstract ideas from Watson and putting them into practice through yoga?
Exactly, and the program's actually endorsed by Jean Watson herself, which adds a lot of weight to their approach.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
It suggests that this isn't just some random trend. It's a program that lines up with established nursing ideas and could actually change how we approach healthcare.
And it's really resonating with nurses. They've got all these stories from nurses who are seeing incredible changes, not just in their patients, but in themselves too.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What are some of the key things they're saying in these testimonials? How has this program affected their lives and work?
Well, a big theme is that focus on self-care and soul healing. Nurses are saying the program has helped them manage stress, reduce burnout, and find a deeper sense of peace within themselves. So you're interested in how this yoga nurse training can actually lead to real career benefits for nurses.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to say it can boost your career, but what does that actually look like? Are we talking about nurses like ditching their scrubs for yoga pants and opening studios?
Well, it doesn't have to mean leaving nursing altogether. It's more about like adding to your skills and creating new opportunities within nursing itself. They actually have a bunch of examples of what their graduates are doing, and it's pretty varied.
Well, that's cool. What are some of the, like, unexpected ways nurses are using this training?
Well, a lot of nurses are incorporating yoga into their current jobs. Like there's this oncology nurse who teaches specific techniques to other oncology nurses and their patients. It's like bringing in a whole new level of care and support.
So it's not just about becoming a yoga teacher, it's about becoming a more well-rounded nurse, someone who can address their patients' needs on a deeper level.
Exactly. And some nurses are even going beyond their typical roles to create like specialized programs. There's this former Navy nurse who now practices holistic modalities both clinically and in her private practice. Talk about a unique career path.
That's amazing. It seems like this training gives nurses the confidence and skills to really branch out and carve their own space within healthcare.
And there are some who are taking it even further, launching their own businesses as yoga nurses. Like there's this nurse who created a whole program focused on grief yoga and a life coach certification. She's using her expertise to help people through some really tough times.
That's such a powerful example of how yoga can be used to address not just physical health, but also emotional and spiritual well-being.
And they even highlight nurses who are using technology to reach more people. There's this nurse who works virtually with clients to empower them to take charge of their health. It's amazing how accessible this type of support can be now.
It really is. It seems like there's so many possibilities. But with all this talk about career growth and starting businesses, I have to ask, how affordable is this program for nurses who are, maybe already struggling financially?
That's a really good point, and they do address it head on. They offer a few payment options, like a one-time payment, a 3-month plan, or even a 10-month plan to make it more manageable.
Oh, that's good to hear. It makes it a lot more accessible for nurses who might not have a lot of money to put down up front.
And they have this good karma guarantee, which basically means you can try the program for 30 days, and if it's not for you, they'll give you a full refund minus a small administrative fee.
That's pretty generous. It shows they really believe in their program and want nurses to feel good about investing in themselves.
And they go even further to address those common worries. Like, they know nurses are busy, so they emphasize that you can go through the program at your own speed, fitting it into your already crazy schedule.
So you don't have to, rush through it or stress about deadlines. You can learn at a pace that works for you.
Exactly. And they even address the I'm not flexible enough for yoga worry, saying that yoga welcomes you as you are. It's about meeting yourself where you're at, not about twisting yourself into some crazy pretzel.
I love that. It makes yoga feel so much more approachable and less intimidating, especially for those of us who might not be natural yogis.
Right. And they even talk about how the things you see as your flaws can actually be a strength, inspiring others to embrace their own uniqueness.
That's such a great message, especially in a world that often pushes us to try and reach these impossible standards of perfection.
But let's get back to the practical side of becoming a yoga nurse. One thing I'm wondering about is Yoga Alliance registration. Is that something nurses need to be concerned about?
That's a great question. And they actually address that specifically. They explain that Yoga Alliance registration is mostly for people who are teaching general yoga classes, not for nurses who are integrating yoga into a healthcare setting.
That makes sense. It's a different context, a different way of using yoga, so their program isn't Yoga Alliance registered?
Nope, not at all. They don't think it's necessary for nurses who are using yoga therapeutically with their patients.
Okay. But what about nurses who do want to become certified yoga teachers? Can this training help with that?
Absolutely. They explained that their YNYTT program and the bonus courses are actually prerequisites for their more advanced training programs, which lead to becoming a certified yoga nurse, or CYN.
So there's a clear path for those who want to take their yoga education further and become licensed yoga nurses.
Exactly. And the advanced training includes mentorship, live or virtual training, and even the chance to use the YogaNurse brand to promote their services.
Wow, that's really comprehensive. They're really setting nurses up for success, whether they want to integrate yoga into their current nursing roles or branch out into teaching or private practice.
But what about nurses who, like, have zero interest in teaching yoga classes? Is this program still worthwhile for them?
That's another great question, and they do touch on that. They acknowledge that if you're just looking for a casual yoga experience, a regular class might be enough.
But their program is for those who want to go deeper.
Right? It's for nurses who really want to understand how yoga can be used therapeutically, how it can help with specific conditions, and how it can boost their own well-being and resilience.
So it's about more than just learning poses. It's about understanding the principles behind yoga and how to apply them in a healthcare setting.
Exactly. They even list some benefits for nurses who aren't planning to teach, like a deeper understanding of anatomy, breath work, and the philosophy of yoga.
Yeah. It's like they're saying, even if you never actually lead a yoga class, this training can help you become a better, more well-rounded nurse overall.
Right. And don't forget about the community aspect. They talk about the Yoga Nurse tribe and how nurses become part of this supportive network of people who are all on the same page.
That's a huge bonus.
Yeah.
Learning the techniques is one thing, but having a community to share experiences and support each other can make a world of difference.
Definitely. And they're really clear about what you get when you sign up. You get access to the online training, all the modules, and 4 bonus courses.
4 bonus courses. That's a lot of extra stuff. What are those about?
They cover specific areas like cancer, cardiac care, yoga nursing essentials, and a meditation manual just for nurses. It's like they're giving you a whole toolbox for incorporating yoga into your nursing practice.
That's impressive. And you get a certificate of completion, which you can put on your resume and use to promote yourself.
They even give you tips on how to explain your qualifications and position yourself as a specialist, which is super helpful for nurses who might be new to marketing themselves.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the program, but I'm curious about the people behind it. Who are the brains behind YogaNurse?
Well, it was founded by Annette Tersigni, a registered nurse with over 30 years of experience, and she's built a team of certified yoga nurses who all contribute their expertise.
So it's not just some random yoga studio trying to, like, make money off of nurses.
Yeah.
It's a program made by nurses, specifically for nurses.
Exactly. And Annette's bio is pretty amazing. She's got a master's degree in nursing, certifications in holistic nursing, and she's studied with some really famous yoga masters. She's clearly passionate about bringing nursing and yoga together.
It sounds like she's really living what she teaches, combining her expertise in nursing and yoga to create something truly unique and beneficial.
And she's not alone. They've got this whole team of certified yoga nurses who contribute to the program, each with their own specialities and experiences.
So it's not just one person's viewpoint. It's a collective wisdom from a diverse group of nurses who are all passionate about yoga and its role in healthcare.
Exactly. And they're always updating and improving the program based on the latest research and best practices, so you know you're getting the most up-to-date information.
That's reassuring. It shows they're dedicated to offering a high-quality, evidence-based program that's relevant to the changing needs of the nursing profession.
And they're not afraid to tackle the tough questions, like the stigma around yoga in healthcare.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Do they talk about how to deal with skepticism from colleagues or patients who might not be open to the whole yoga thing?
They do. They encourage nurses to be confident in their knowledge and to educate others about the proven benefits of yoga. They also emphasize the importance of respecting different viewpoints and finding common ground.
So it's not about forcing yoga on anyone. It's about having a conversation and sharing the potential benefits in a way that's respectful and informative.
Exactly. And they also provide resources and support for nurses who are having these conversations.
That's awesome. It shows they're really invested in supporting their graduates and helping them succeed as yoga nurses.
But it's not just about professional success, it's also about personal growth. They talk about how this program can help nurses reconnect with their own inner wisdom, cultivate self-compassion, and find more meaning and purpose in their work.
That's so beautiful. It's like they're saying, yes, you can become a more skilled and successful nurse, but you can also become a more fulfilled and complete person in the process.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this program so special and interesting. It's not just about adding another skill to your resume. It's about going on a journey of self-discovery and transformation that can then affect your patients, your coworkers, and your whole community.
And they really emphasize that idea of a ripple effect, don't they? They talk about how Yoga Nurse is part of a bigger movement to change healthcare and create a more compassionate and healing world.
It's a really inspiring vision. But before we get too caught up in the big picture, I'm curious about the actual details of the program. What exactly does the training involve? How is it structured?
That's a great question. Let's take a closer look at the format of the YNYTT program and see how it all works.
Sounds good to me. What kind of learning experience can nurses expect?
So we've talked about all of the amazing career opportunities, heard from nurses who've actually gone through the program and seen how much support they offer. But what's the training really like? What exactly does the YNYTT involve?
Well, the whole program's online, which is great for nurses who are, always busy and can't commit to a fixed schedule or travel somewhere specific.
So you can learn at your own speed right from home. That's a total game changer for nurses juggling work, family, everything.
Exactly. And it's not just watching videos passively. They've got interactive stuff, quizzes, even chances to connect with other nurses taking the program.
Oh, that's cool. So it's a more active learning experience, not just someone dumping information on you. That helps keep you engaged and actually learn the stuff, right?
Right. And they break the training down into modules, manageable chunks that you can work through at your own pace. It's designed to fit into your life, not take over.
That's so important for nurses who are already overloaded. But with all that flexibility, do you think there's a risk of nurses starting and then, getting distracted or losing steam?
It's a good point.
Yeah.
But they have ways to keep nurses engaged. They have a support team to answer questions and keep you motivated. And there's that community we talked about with nurses connecting and helping each other out.
So it's not like you're just out there alone trying to figure it all out on your own. You've got a whole team backing you up.
Exactly. And they offer continuing education credits for nurses who need them, which is a nice perk.
Oh, that's awesome. They're not just giving you a life-changing learning experience, they're helping you move forward in your career too.
Speaking of careers, they really stress that this training isn't about just becoming a yoga teacher. It's about making yoga a part of everything you do as a nurse.
So you could use this training to, do better in a hospital setting, a private practice, even a corporate wellness program. There are so many options.
Tons of them. And they help you figure out how to market yourself, build your brand, create a successful practice as a yoga nurse. It's like a roadmap for this exciting new territory.
Okay, we've talked about the format, the structure, the support, the credits, even the career stuff. What about what you actually learn? What skills and techniques are they teaching in this program?
Well, they go really in-depth into yoga anatomy and physiology, which is key to understanding how different poses and techniques work on the body. They teach nurses how to adapt practices for different people and health conditions, so it's safe and effective.
So it's not just memorizing poses. It's about really understanding the why behind yoga and how to use it in a personalized therapeutic way.
Yeah, exactly. And they cover a wide range of techniques, from breathing exercises and meditation to gentle stretching and restorative poses. They also emphasize mindfulness, being aware of yourself and the patient.
So it's not just about the physical side of yoga. It's about developing a deeper sense of presence and connection.
Exactly. And they connect it all back to the ethics of nursing, like making sure you have informed consent, respecting the patient's choices, and honoring that nurse-patient relationship.
It's amazing how they've brought together this ancient wisdom with modern healthcare to create something truly holistic.
And they don't shy away from the science either. They give you access to a whole research library full of studies and articles that support using yoga in healthcare.
So it's not just a feel-good thing.
Yeah.
There's actual evidence to support these practices.
Oh, absolutely. They want nurses to feel confident and ready to advocate for integrating yoga into their workplaces using the latest research and best practices.
Okay, as we wrap up this look at YogaNurse, I want to go back to the bigger picture. What's their overall goal? Where do they see this program going?
They talk about creating a movement, a ripple effect that starts with individual nurses and changes the whole healthcare system.
So it's not about training just a handful of nurses. It's about building a community of yoga nurses who can push for change and make holistic care the norm.
That's it. They imagine a future where yoga isn't seen as something alternative or weird, but as a vital part of compassionate, holistic healthcare.
It's a really powerful vision. And honestly, after learning about this program and how it's changing things for nurses and patients, I feel hopeful about the future of healthcare.
I do too. It's inspiring to see a program that's not only tackling the problems in healthcare today, but also paving the way for a more human, holistic, and patient-centered approach.
So, as we leave our listeners with all of this to think about, what's one last thing you'd like to share with them?
If something in this deep dive even slightly sparked your interest, if you feel drawn to bringing yoga into your work as a nurse, I encourage you to learn more about YogaNurse. You might be amazed at the journey that awaits you.
That's a great way to put it. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next YogaNurse graduate we feature on a future episode, telling your story and how you're using yoga to heal yourself, your patients, and the world around you.
Thanks for joining us for this exploration of YogaNurse.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep shining bright.